One of the biggest problems with physics is the fact that it's problem solving. Everything is the dreaded word problem in math. Now, the cool thing is though, if you set them up the same way every time, you can actually do every problem in this course pretty much the same way, just putting in a different equation. But the actual steps you're going to do are exactly the same. So why we hate word problems is normally when you take a class, you basically go, you hit a question, you go, oh, I know what that is. With a word problem, you hit it and you go, oh my God, I don't know it. I don't know the right answer. And the trick is, you got to realize that as long as you know the process, the answer will appear. You don't need to know the answer at the beginning or it wouldn't really be a problem. So there are 5 steps to problem solving. And by the way, this works in any type of problem. In fact, I learned this from computer science. No one actually ever taught me this in math or physics. So the 5 steps. Write down what you know. Really important. Make it basically, as soon as you've written down what you know, it stops being a word problem. Write what the question is. Like, that may seem silly, but always put acceleration equals question mark or distance equals question mark. Because 90% of the time, if you're going to get something really wrong, it's because you're not actually solving for what I've asked you for. Number 3, find an answer. Doesn't need to be the right answer, just go through the procedure, find an answer, then you test it and you see if it makes sense. The nice thing with physics is, if it sounds stupid, it probably is. Because keep in mind, this is the real world. At the end, you just write your statement, or you go back and you try and figure out where you went wrong. So, first step, write what you know. Look through the question, write out all the facts that are given. Basically, anything with a number, write it down, and write down what it is. Make sure to look for numbers and keywords like comes to rest. The only trick I can actually ask you on this is to make one of the values 0 and to tell you in the question that it stopped or it started from rest or something like that, okay? That's the trick. That's literally the only trick. Next step, write what the question is. So this is the thing that costs people the most marks in physics. Read the question carefully, write down what you're being asked to find. I know it sounds simple, but it will save you a ton of marks. Last thing, find an answer. So basically look at what you know, what you need, find the right equation, rearrange it. If you have trouble with rearranging, please talk to me. I can help, okay? I used to suck at it. I found a ton of ways to do it really nice and easily and quickly. Sub the numbers into the equation, use a calculator to get the answer. Then you look at the answer to see if it makes sense. So remember, physics, I know you're used to math being something separate from the real world. There's real world and there's math. In physics, it is the math of the real world. So if you get a fish swimming at 4,000 kilometers an hour, you probably made a mistake. Go back, make sure you have the right directions, make sure you have the right units. If the answer makes sense, you're done. Last, write a statement. All physics questions need a written statement and a unit at the end. Otherwise, it's just math. You can't just say D equals 5. Not an answer. You have to say the distance it traveled was 5 kilometers, because that's a lot different than the distance it traveling being 5 meters, right? So please, statement and a unit at the end of everything. So here's an example. So step 1, write what you know. So if you'll notice, I read through the question, a CF-18, blah, 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 from rest to 120. So V1, my initial velocity is 0. My final velocity is 120. The time is 5 seconds. I'm being asked to find the acceleration. So for step 2, I write A equals question mark. So you define what you know. By the way, on a test, I'm going to give you 1 mark for that. Step 3, look for an equation that only contains what you know and what you want to find. So I write down the equation that has A, V1, V2, and T. Plug the numbers in. Be careful that V2 is 120, V1 is 0. 5, divide through, I get an answer. I write my statement. The acceleration is 23 meters per second squared. All right, you'll notice I did actually make a little mistake there. It's 24. That's why I say when you're done, slow down, be careful. Look for a silly little mistake that might cost you marks. Because a lot of the time, it's going to be the silly mistake that costs you the marks in this class if you know what you're doing. If you know where you're going, it'll work every single time. All right? So write it out, write what you're asked being find, write down the equation, and you will always have the equations with you. I'm not going to ask you to memorize anything. You'll have a cheat sheet ready before the test and the exam. Plug in the numbers, calculator, done.